Welcome to Shift Talking. I'm so happy to have you here. Really honored to have you here. And I'm so excited to jump all in and learn all about you and how you got here and also how our attachment, affects every part of our lives, I'd imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. Thank you so much for having me on here to speak with you and your audience. I'm thrilled.
Yeah, absolutely. I have incorporated some attachment work into the work that I do, of course. And I am far from being an expert. And so I'm really excited to dive in and learn all about you and what you do and how these things work. So tell me about your history. So you are a therapist now, yeah?
I am, yeah. So I work with clients internationally. And really, my goal is to help them understand what secure attachment looks like and to address, if they have attachment issues, and to work really in the present time. So, a lot of therapy modalities will take you back in time into your earlier years, which is it's helpful to a degree, right?
Hmm.
And I will talk a little bit about the childhood influence there. But what I like to do is really focus on where are you at today? And so, what is really triggering you in the world you're living in today, right? In your current environment. And what we find is what's most triggering for people is really, attached to some sort of wound that they actually developed in early childhood, right? So the why they developed it in early childhood is, from my perspective, important to a point. But what can we do in present day to actually unlearn some of those patterns? Now, when we're talking about wounds and attachment styles, everyone has an attachment style. So this is why I find this work so interesting and important. And I like to really distinguish it from talking about mood disorders or personality disorders or mental illness. That's not at all what we're talking about. Really, attachment styles, everyone has one. And it's simply the way in which you would interact with other people and form emotional bonds,
Mm.
right? So we
Yeah.
have some folks, the people who do this in a secure way, and we will talk about what that means. And then we
Mm.
have another cohort of people that do this in an insecure way. And this is really just a reflection of what they learned in their earliest years as a child.
Yeah. I read somewhere, and I actually, in this day and age, I don't know what's real and what's not, that our attachment styles tend to be mostly ingrained or the framework is laid by the time we're 5. Is that accurate?
Yes,
Oh,
that piece is right, right. And so it's so interesting because we are most suggestible as humans from birth. So right out of the oven, 0 to 5. In that time period of our life, even pre-verbal, we are highly suggestible. So the things that we experience, we feel, we see, we smell, we hear, if particularly they're attached to a strong emotion, that creates a pattern, an imprint in our minds. And that typically follows us into adulthood. It becomes almost like a set of rules that we use to engage with ourselves and with others. Like it becomes our compass for what's right and what's wrong, right? And it's not until we get older that we realize, okay, we can actually start to question some of these things, right? So is this actually true, or do I simply believe it to be true?
ugh. Yes.
Mm. Yeah.
Yes. The grossest of questions that's so necessary for us to ask.
Right. And attachment
Yeah.
styles impact us in so many different ways, right? So again, I talked about how we connect to ourselves, the amount of trust that we afford ourselves, the amount of trust that we afford others, our baseline like emotional patterns, our communication style, our personality needs, our relationship to boundaries, and our coping mechanisms, like our behaviors, So I'm talking about things that people do when they're under stress or in conflict, One person might, reach for a tub of ice cream, and the next person might turn on porn. We
Hmm.
all do things, right, to cope.
Yeah.
And this is highly predictive, these behaviors of
Wow.
your attachment style.
Wow. So outside of like the quizzes, how can people learn their attachment style? Or is it mainly just with the quizzes?
So, I mentioned that human behavior is very predictive, actually. Like it's really all set on patterns. So, we can talk a little bit about what secure attachment is and what insecure attachment is. And I think once you and your audience get maybe a deeper understanding, there'll probably be moments where you'll be like, oh, yeah, that's me. Right? Like
Hmm.
you'll see yourself in it.
Yes.
There is, of course, a quiz on my website. It's securelylove.com. People can do it. It's about 10 minutes. It's free. You answer a bunch of questions. They'll tell you sort of where you fall. But if you understand, the sort of the basics of secure and insecure attachment, generally you'll be able to identify more or less where you lean, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I was definitely previously quite anxious,
mm,
insanely anxious, incredibly anxious. And since through the work that I've been doing, I'm now, of course, like more within the secure. And I am so much better at being able to recognize the narratives, the thought processes, the ways that I like lean into naturally into the more anxious and remind myself like, ugh, not my job. Okay, that's not for me. Tone it back,
yes,
focus on what you need and move forward. But it really is kind of a daily practice
it
of
is.
recognizing how these things kind of creep up. It's my autopilot is to be more anxious. And unless I'm staying super mindful, it's just so easy for it to kind of take over.
It absolutely is. So you say your autopilot, that is your subconscious mind that's running the show for all of us. So those patterns that we were talking about, it is like your operating system,
Mm.
right? But what happens is that it's an operating system that doesn't get updated for 20, 30, 40 years, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, some people are still running on DOS. I don't even know if you know that reference. You don't know
I've
that
heard it.
reference?
I've heard it. I'm familiar with it, but I don't understand it. So
Oh
there's
my God.
some
DOS
that,
was before Microsoft Windows. I'm really aging myself. DOS is an acronym, Disk Operating System. So it was it was the operating system before Windows came out.
got it.
So
Okay,
before
that makes okay.
1995. So imagine there's still a cohort of people that are operating on a pre-Windows system.
Woof.
Right? And then
Yeah.
there's people in this world that are using, the most advanced technological smartphones.
Yes.
So
Noted. Fair. Okay.
yeah, that's sort of where we're at. But
Yeah.
I liked also how you mentioned, in reference to yourself, that you were very anxious and now you moved more towards secure attachment. And I think that that's more than fair. There's very few people that smack into a category like I'm securely attached. It's a process, and it is a daily
Yeah.
process. Just like if you wanted to be healthier in your life and eat better and work out, you can make beautiful changes to your physique. We know we can do that
Mhm.
gradually over time, but you don't, for example, put muscle on your frame and then it stays there the rest of your life. You have to
Would be
keep
nice though.
going to the gym. That would be nice.
Yeah. It'd be phenomenal.
I would love that last week I only ate salads and then I'm good. For the rest of my life, I can eat
Yeah.
whatever I want.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And so some people actually think that, well, I went to 3 therapy sessions, so I'm good.
Hmm.
It's
Check
a
the box.
yeah, it's a continual process, right? Of
Yeah.
pouring into yourself, questioning yourself, whether you're talking about, your physical health or your mental health, your mind is not that different from the rest of your body and how you would maintain it and keep it at its optimal momentum.
What do you think keeps people from leaning into that part and allowing themselves to get curious about who they are and why they are that way?
Such a great question. I find that
Loaded.
when
Yeah.
really great question. I find that when people actually take a moment and they learn about attachment styles, there's not a lot of pushback. I think the first part
Mhm.
is awareness. Like,
Yeah.
I haven't noticed a lot of pushback. Like, usually what I end up seeing is this great aha moment And people are like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense.
Yes.
And that's what happened to me as well when I tripped over this work years ago.
Mm.
I was on my own personal journey, like many of us. I knew that in my mind and body, I didn't feel calm.
Okay.
And, I knew that I had a difficult childhood. I intellectually knew that, right? But I had
Mhm.
all of these behaviors and emotional patterns that were really difficult for me to understand and for those around me also. And so I did seek the support and help of, various practitioners, therapists, and I'm a big believer in trying, whatever you could sort of get your hands on,
Yes.
right? Because for one
Yeah.
person, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy is really effective. For another person, EMDR is really effective, which is eye movement rapid desensitization. It's a trauma based therapy.
Mhm.
And so I had tried a variety of things and I found they were helpful to a point. But when I tripped
Mhm.
over attachment styles, I had the biggest aha moment of my life. And it helped me so much that I said, okay, that this is where I need to be spending my time is
Yeah.
in getting the word out and, helping others with that level of impact. Because for me, it was the missing puzzle piece.
Yeah, I'd imagine it is for a lot of us, right? What I learned about myself from learning my attachment style and understanding it fundamentally became what my expectations are of my partner. And
Mm,
whether that boundary is actually a boundary or whether it's just control and whether it actually benefits me or it just feels like it benefits me because it aligns with this like wounded part of me. So there really is this kind of
hmm
fundamental thing. And if we're talking about it being ingrained by the time we're 5, the part that just freaks me out about that concept is that I don't have a conscious memory of those times.
Great
And
point.
that makes me feel so kind of out of control of myself
Mm,
in those ways. And I also think that that's what opens up the opportunity for people to like, all right, that's woo woo, leave it where it is, because kind of confronting that discomfort
yeah.
of this, like somebody else, programmed this, didn't give me a manual. And now I'm
hmm
left to figure it out. And that just feels daunting and overwhelming.
It is. And it's a great point that you're making. Very, very few people have memory, true memory before 5, right? So the
Yeah.
mind just isn't developed enough. And so most people, if you talk about their earliest childhood memories, will be 6, 7, 8, right? So they don't
Yeah.
remember those first couple of years. And oftentimes, too, if we try to fill in the blanks and speak to our parents or caregivers or our grandmother, whatnot, like, what did the house look like when I was 2 years old? Or was I allowed to run around? Did you hold me a lot? Was there a lot of screaming? You're often met with everything was fine. I don't understand the question,
Uh huh. Yeah. I raised you
right?
all the same. What do you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, so a lot of times we are dealing with missing pieces, but that it doesn't, it almost doesn't matter, right? The why you were programmed, we just sort of start from the point of today. So you have this operating system, it needs to be upgraded.
Mhm.
Let's work on that.
Right. So rather than going back and digging and feeling like I have to unearth these things in order to heal from them or move through them, what I'm hearing from you is like where you are is where you are. We have this history of patterns that kind of
Mhm.
indicate what it is that we're attempting to find in those early years that we go digging in.
Yeah.
And because we're here, let's just work to break the pattern.
Yeah, so it's so interesting because you mentioned yourself and you had expectations of your partner. So
Yeah.
someone who is anxiously attached has some very specific patterns, right? So
Mm-hmm.
again, you would have put the romantic relationship above everything else. It
Yep.
would have been the most important thing to you. Not
Yep.
just you, but anyone who's anxiously attached.
Yeah.
You would have expected a high degree of closeness, attention, validation, reassurance, intimacy, right?
Hmm.
It would have impacted your thought process, your expectation for how much time you spend together, the way that you have sex together, the level of intimacy and authenticity. And it also would impact the way in which the two of you would disagree on things, conflict,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I noticed there was a lot of that. And what I see within myself and those who we can recognize fall more within the anxiousness, we tend to tolerate so much more that than we should. Maybe should is a stronger word,
Hmm.
but more than we would might imagine ourselves being willing to tolerate in order
Hmm.
to have that closeness and have that kind of reassurance that I'm chosen, that, you know, I'm safe.
Yeah. Do you know why that is?
No.
Okay. Well, we're going to dive in. So,
Okay.
we talk about core wounds. So, each one of the different attachment styles has core wounds that are very common. The
Mm.
biggest one for the anxiously attached is I will be abandoned.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Hmm.
So let's explore the anxious attacher a little bit and then we can go into the other styles. Okay. So I'll
Yeah.
just back up a little bit just to give people a backdrop. So
Yeah.
we have secure attachment and we have insecure attachment. And within the insecure attachment framework, we have three subcategories, let's say. So you'll hear people talk about that there's four attachment styles. I group it into two, secure and
Mm.
insecure. And then within insecure, you have anxiously attached or anxious preoccupied,
Hmm.
avoidantly attached or dismissive avoidant, same thing. And then you have the fearful avoidant or disorganized attacher, which is a combo of the two.
Okay.
Okay? So there, however you want to phrase it, there's four, let's say, buckets. Okay? So secure attachment is the one that we're aiming towards. Secure, someone who's has a secure attachment style came out of a home where they got a fair degree of consistent emotional attunement from their caregiver.
Mm.
So they felt a degree of safety and predictability, which is so important for the emotional health of a young child, right? So when the
Yeah.
baby cried, the baby was held, maybe the baby was fed, was coddled, given comfort, felt safe in the parent's arms, all of those things. And especially even when they grew older, if they were experiencing an emotion, the parent helped them understand the emotion, gave them space to feel the emotion, to name the emotion, and responded in a healthy way to the emotion. So, so many times we see a child, for example, screaming in the middle of a grocery store,
Hmm.
right? And the parent generally will go into like a shaming mode. Stop screaming, or you're not going to have dessert, or I'm going to take you right home, or, stuff like this, instead of actually just acknowledging, why are you screaming? What are you
Right.
feeling right now? Right?
Uh-huh.
And I'm not saying that the tantrum behavior should be accepted, it's not. But when a child is having an emotional outburst, it's because they're hurting. And so they're either seeking your attention, your comfort, your safety. And if you
Hmm.
understand that, you'll respond differently.